In His Voice podcast, hosted by me, Rob L. Lowe, where we talk about those things that deeply impact the lives of boys and men without ever bashing women. We talk about everything from the bedroom to the boardroom, from the playground to the stadium, and everything in between. Today's show, no different. Well, first, I want to welcome you to season 4. Season 4. We've got through the first 3 seasons over the last couple of years. And you know what? I'm excited about season 4. In case you didn't tune in last season, I'm shooting from the studio here in Los Angeles. I've been out here for a year now. And I made it a point that even last season, I said I was going to start picking up conversations or topics that were really meaningful and more impactful. Seasons 1 and 2, I did a lot of interviews. Seasons 3 was me. And then season 4, I'm going to do both. I'm going to do some interviews, but also going to have some meaningful conversations with just myself. So, what better way to kick off season 4 than with something that is super relevant? Today, it hit me. Valentine's Day just passed. And when I was looking at social media, and I've been noticing this for a while, I can't help but look and be discouraged at the amount of bashing that black men and black women do to each other on social media. Now, there's probably other races and other ethnicities that do similar, but no one can argue that black men and black women bash each other publicly at a higher rate than any other demographic. And there's probably a lot of reasons to go into that, and I'm not here to say what's right or wrong. But being a black man who has black daughters and a black wife and black sisters, but who has male cousins, some that I'm very fond of. I got some brothers in my life that are just really good brothers. It's discouraging to see what I see on social media of how we go back and forth and ridicule one another. My daughters, when they went off to college, I told them that, they could date whoever they want, no matter what. But what I told them is they can never come and tell me that they dated any guy of any race because there were no good guys of another race. I said, you can't do that to me, black or white. You can't come and tell me you're dating a black guy because there's no good white guys. You can't come and tell me you're dating a white guy because there's no good black guys. You can't do that. You can date whoever you want, but don't blame it on the actions of another person or try to generalize a whole population. So as I prepared for this topic, I started doing some research, right? And when I say research, I said ChatGPT, just so you know. I started thinking about what are some key drivers of why we see this. And so I pulled up some stuff, and I want to talk about each of them. The first one is just the historical context of the divide and conquer tactics. If you know about the Willie Lynch letter, and you understand the magnitude and the impact behind that philosophy, do you understand that it's playing out in today's society? Let me give you some examples. So if you go back to the 40s and 50s, what they told black families, particularly black women, is that if the black man does not support you or abandons you, as long as you don't let him back in the house, we'll give you welfare. And so, but if you have a man in the house, you can't have government assistance. So that right there creates a sense of you want something, you got to get rid of him. And then for black men, what do? Man, we are the highest incarcerated group of individuals in the country and probably in the world as far as a demographic per population. Some staggering number that 1 out of 10 or whatever the number is, 1 out of 5 black men will be incarcerated in their life. Not only does that impact our ability to vote, but it impacts our ability to provide for families. And you think about the divorce rate and the number of single moms out there at the expense of black men. Now, don't get me wrong. You can't put it all on black men because women make choices. But black men, the things that we do and the decisions we make, and us walking away from those responsibilities help perpetuate the stereotypes and create the challenges that we have in our groups, in our society. And so if you think about story, because I talked about it, you have this mindset of, we'll give you something if they're not around. And then we tell black men, you got to be tough, you got to be hard, you can't show emotion. And then what happens? We grow up to be savages or perceived savages and violence, and we got to be tough. And then we kill each other, and then we get incarcerated, and we're not there. Now you take that cycle right there, and then you add into it prosperity. So now the philosophy is, well, for black women, which is the most educated group on the country, they are the fastest group of entrepreneurs in the country. They still make slightly less than black men and less than white women and less than white men. They don't make less than all demographics, but they do make less than those that matter to them. And you say, how can the most educated group be one of the most underpaid? And you add that on top of, man, many of them are single moms at the expense of black men, not just only black men, but majority black men. And then what they see, and then you go in there and you throw in music. You think about the music that was made in the 80s and 90s, and even the music that was made today that vilified black women, that called them hoes and bitches, and, you know, it talked about having a bunch of them and what we would do to them. And so the days of Public Enemy, the days of Poor Righteous Teachers, the days of making songs like that or groups like that don't exist. So what did the record companies do? They went and got groups like, went and got female MCs like Lowe, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion. And I'm not knocking those sisters. What I'm saying is, what they told them is, if you make songs like this, I'll make you popular. And I'll help you make millions of dollars as long as you don't uplift black men in the process, and you uplift only black women. And by the way, say things that will perpetuate stereotypes that other people believe black women are. We will make you millionaires. And so you add that combination, and over time, you know what you get? You get a society of black and men and women who don't value one another. We don't see each other as equals. We blame each other for our failures and challenges in life. No other race does that. Even if they're not working together in private, they don't bash each other public. Let me give you an example. Kamala Harris ran for president of the United States. 89% of black men voted for her. 92%, I think, of black women voted for her. So we showed up. And there were some conversations with different circles that I had, like, yeah, but she married a white guy. I'd be like, oh, yeah, but you better vote for her. That's a black woman. You need to support us. But let a black athlete marry a white woman. And the backlash that comes with that is unreal. And what black women will say is, you know what? All the good black men go marry white women, and it's because they can't handle a black woman. It's this and that. But when a black woman marries a white man, black women say, well, they did it because there's no good black men available, because black men don't know how to treat us. And so we blame each other. Oh, and black men say that too. I married a white woman because a white woman brings me peace. A white woman brings me a level of comfort that no black woman can. And I go, so, okay, so you had some bad experiences with a few black women, or you had bad experiences with a few black men, but you make a whole generalization about a whole group of people because of your limited experience. And I want you to think about this, and I'm on a rant right now. What do you think that does to our young, men and women, or young teenagers, men or female, boys or females, when they see this? How do you think that's going to affect the way that they grow up and see the world and see each other? Again, Willie Lynch says, keep them divided, and they will conquer themselves. And that's all they're doing through policy, through music, through economics, through social media. I want you to think about this. You ready? Did you know there are at least 7 national award shows for black women? 7. Soul Train, Essence. There's one on Broadway. I don't know all of them, but I counted. There were 7 national award shows for black women. Do you know there's none for Hispanic women? There's none for Asian women? Yeah, there's awards. Different businesses, chambers. We're talking about national award shows. There's none for other demographics. and there's none for black men. So when I go back and they say, well, how do we get this? Because society has rewarded black women. And they said, look, as long as you take care of yourself and you keep praising yourself, and by the way, don't uplift them, we will continue to pour into you and tell you how special you are and tell you how much you don't need black men or anyone else. When Kamala lost, black women took that as a personal attack, that we didn't support her, that we didn't support black women, that we didn't do this. Man, when I heard that, I was like, man, I can understand you're hurt. But man, it's much bigger than that. Her story, her message didn't resonate with a lot of white households. It didn't. And then here's the other thing. When Hispanics are out there protesting, when Asians are protesting, when they're doing all those things that affect their community, how vocal are we? How vocal are we as black people when we go out and stand up for what other people are fighting for? Even afterwards, I saw social media, black women said, don't call us. I actually saw this, that some black women said, black women built this country. Now, before you start bashing me in these comments, do you know how asinine that sounds? Black women built this country. If you understand the slap in the face that what that says to black men, to Hispanics, to Asians, to Native Americans, that you would say that you are the only group that built this country, whether you meant it symbolically or not, that's not even accurate. That's clearly not accurate. And it's those type of comments that create rhetoric that keep us divided, because social media takes that and they run with it. You know, it must be my algorithm. That's one of the other things I want to talk about. Because on my social media feeds, I get all of these things because I read them and I'm interested, and I go study the history and the facts around it. And I think most people are oblivious to these type of things. So I'm gonna give you some other things to think about, right? So we have social media algorithms that truly, if they find something that generates a response and creates momentum and gets a lot of clicks and views, the algorithm will pick it up and then run with it. You know what? Here's a prime example. The Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef. Look, Kendrick killed him. I'm not even here to talk about who won. But what I'm saying is, if you go look at social media, man, as long as people say something about it, they use it in their YouTube or TikTok, it gets thousands and sometimes millions of views. Because it's negative, and because it's black people, and because we're tearing each other down. We don't realize the impact of that. We think it's truly about the culture, and like, man, we don't even see what's happening. It's another way of divide and conquer. So whether it's economics, whether it's education, whether it's music, don't let them collectively start thinking together and creating content that will unify them. If there's something that can keep them divided, keep pumping it out there. And we don't even see that we do it. That's the sad part. That's the piece that hurts me as a black man in this country, because I love people. I love all people. I love black people. I love white people, Hispanics, Native Americans, Asians. There are some individuals I don't like, but not a whole group of people, not a generalization. That's too broad. And so when we do that, if you know what, here's something to think about. Just go do this. Go find something on social media and see where a black man posts something positive about a black woman. Just go watch. And what will happen is you'll see black men in the comments start bashing him or making negative comments about black women when the original comment was positive. They'll, rather than accept that this one person had a great experience or a great perspective, they just feel the need to interject theirs. Same thing with black women. If a black woman goes on social media and posts something really empowering or supportive of black men will like it, but go watch what women post. There will be some that are supportive, and there's others that will absolutely bash it, and they're not this, they're not that. And I go, how did we get here? I know my voice isn't big enough, but I pray one day that I get to live and see the opportunity for us to speak to one another again with humility, with respect, to lift each other up. So social media and the algorithm. There's something else to think about. Ready? I touched on it a little bit. Unresolved trauma and frustration. So what does that mean? We take into our relationships past trauma. The story I talked about my daughters that say, listen, you can date whoever you want, but don't make a generalization of all men because the actions of a few. Don't do that. Don't pick someone that you want to date out of spite for someone else that you don't want to date. Just something I want you to think about. And then medial stereotypes, we talked about that. That goes in music, it goes in TV, it goes in movies. When they show us, I'll tell you a story. I was in Sweden years ago for work, and I met some folks from South Africa. So actually some folks from South Africa, they were black, and some folks from Nigeria. And I was asked them, what do they think about the U.S. and, black people? And they was like, well, they told us not to interact with you all when we get there. I said, why? They said, because, what they show us and what we tell is that you don't like us and that you guys are violent, you're dangerous, you don't respect each other, and you don't respect women. And these are black people from a different country, and that's the perception they have of us. You know how crazy that sounds? And I was shocked because for those of us that live in this country that have never been anywhere, many of us have negative stereotypes of what black people look like or what they do or how they live their life in Africa. But when you travel and you start to see that we are the only country, or we are the prominent group of individuals within a country that bash each other. And it's because we have been taught for hundreds of years to not value each other. I saw someone say, black men, the article said black women, but I would say it applies to black men too, will go and listen to a white boss, but come home and not want to listen to their black spouse. So I'll go to a company and I'll be quiet and I'll let someone who's my white boss tell me what to do and give me direction, but I won't take direction from my black spouse. Now, again, that's a political type of statement. I understand that, but it's something I want you to think about. No matter who you're married to, male or female, whatever that case is, man, if you can go and take direction for someone else and you can submit to their authority and their role because it pays you, but you're not willing to hear or compromise or understand the perspective of the person that you share your life with, that says a lot about you. Something else I want you to think about. External forces that are at play. Talked about Willie Lynch, talked about music, talked about media, talked about a lot of things. But don't think that this isn't orchestrated. Don't think that we're not pawns in the game. You think about this, BET, Black Entertainment TV, they've changed a lot. But in the beginning, it grew because it played videos openly that degraded black women and black men, that talked about killing. They just made them change the lyrics. But we knew the content, and it took off. And it became a billion-dollar business that Viacom bought from Bob Johnson, I think that's his name, and he split it with his wife. And just think if BET would have said, no, I'm only going to play videos that uplift our community. And what we did is we said, it's reality rap, it's art, it is. But we couldn't find no other reality. Like every reality was about violence and drug dealing and shooting each other. And I was a young person, I listened to it. But I'm older now, and I think about, man, while there is a place for art, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't. What I'm saying, it has to be balanced. In our world today, it's not balanced. Kendrick Lamar is probably one of the most prolific rappers that ever lived. Talking about impact. I'm a huge Eminem fan, so I'll start that right there. But I have a huge amount of respect for Kendrick Lamar. And his body of work over his career, no one can argue with. But what people love most in today's age, not true historical Kendrick Lamar fans, but in today's age, they love the fact that he made diss records to diss a black guy who we don't want to consider black now. But historically, we say if you have an ounce of black in you, or if one of your parents is black, you're black. Now people say Drake's not black. Now he's not Canadian. But people love the fact that there's a diss record tearing down another black man. Regardless of what you think about him. I just want you to think about that. And so I'm going to wrap this up and say, look, every race has relationship problems. Probably every country has relationship problems. But I'm speaking to black men and black women. Man, I'm not perfect. I've done so many things wrong in my life, and I'm trying to make them right now. And this is one of the reasons I'm having this conversation. Because ain't nobody going to fix us but us. People profit off us being divided. So you have a choice to make. I hope you make the right choice. Stop falling into the trap of tearing each other down and blaming each other and realizing that this is all part of a plan. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This has been orchestrated for hundreds of years, and other people just realize it and we don't. Do better, think better, we'll be better. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the In His Voice podcast. I'll see you next time. Take care. God bless.